As I move indoor to start my winter training and my prep for the spring and summer, and especially going into those Total Archery Challenge events, I make some equipment changes, but one of the things that I change first and foremost is going to be my peep size. Because your peep size is critical, because the larger your peep, the more margin you can have for having that peep sight. When we talk about front sight, rear sight alignment, I'm referring to my front sight being my aiming pin and my scope housing, and the rear sight being the peep. The smaller this hole gets, the more it forces you to focus on perfectly aligning that pin in the center of that peep. Now, what I always like to do is I like to have a perfect eclipse around what I refer to as my scope housing or my scope diameter. I want a perfect eclipse with that peep around that. So with some of the smaller scopes, or if you have a standard one, you might find like in the Spot Hog NE sights, we have different types of ring apertures. So if you're in a hunting situation, you might prefer this larger ring aperture. And the reason you might want a bigger peep sight like this one on a hunting setup is because it allows you to gather more light in low light conditions. So if you're in a hunting blind, or if you're in those last minutes and you draw back and you're trying to look through a super small hole, it's just going to be blacked out and you're not going to be able to do it. So most shops and most people are going to give you a larger diameter peep size for hunting situations. But if you really want to tighten up your groups, tighten up the peep diameter, and those groups will tighten very quick because you're simply not able to have as much slop around the outside of your front aperture. The other thing you need to keep in mind is if you're training in your outdoors, or if you're indoors and you're shooting at your local club or your local shop, the lighting usually is good enough to where you can have a very small peep diameter. In target situations, when I was a target shooter, the peep diameter is almost the size of a pinhead that you're looking through. However, you can then go to a smaller scope and you're really having this small, finite aiming area that you're picking very specific spots to aim at, where when you have a hunting situation, you're able to see that entire sight picture. You're able to see the whole animal. You have a bigger housing to where you can really, use the animal as a silhouette if you need to in those low light conditions. So once you move in and you start working on your target training or your practice, reduction in peep size is going to tighten groups super quick. It's an easy change out. What you want to keep in mind is you want to have that peep diameter the exact diameter of your front housing. So if I went to this smaller ring like this, I would be able to go down to that smaller peep. If I had a larger ring like this, I'd be able to have that hunting peep. And again, it would allow me to see that full picture. But in a situation with a smaller diameter scope like this and a large peep, I have quite a bit of daylight around that scope. So I'm really having to focus on perfect alignment. Sometimes that's difficult because you're focusing on other aspects of your shot. Reduce the peep, reduce your groups.